Hello, my name is Unrested, and this is my brand new channel, Oshi Nights. Awesome. I have been wanting to start this channel since early 2024 summer. I talked about it with my viewers from my original channel, which is called Unrested, a channel that was started to help people with moving, living, and working in Japan. I also tended to get into a schedule of making a Saturday show called Oshi Saturday, which dealt with a bunch of scary stories I had gathered in the East and all over Asia. And although I loved telling them on that channel, the viewers who had come there for the more touristy or moving over to Japan type videos and Japan's frequently asked questions videos weren't always a big fan of the horror being told on Saturdays with the Oshi Saturday show. Hence, I canceled it over there, haven't talked about it for years on end, but have been asked by viewers to start a separate channel. And I have by calling it Oshi Nights. The reason for that is I accumulate all my footage for this new channel by watching horror movies with viewers, playing horror games with viewers at nighttime. Usually it is Eastern Standard Time, Saturdays, Fridays, Sundays, and it is usually about 7 to 9 o'clock, depending on when we start. It's very relaxed, very chill. Head on over to my main channel, Unrested, if you wish to join one of those on a weekend night. It's a good time. Enough said about the start of this channel. Let's get into our topic of today. It is Japanese horror games. We are delving into some indie devs who have just burst onto the scene within the past few years and talking about their sweet little indie titles that I feel like kick the butt of a lot of recent horror games coming out that have not really been too scary, comparable to these tiny indie devs. Usually tend to be 1 to 2 people only making these games. The first game we're going to talk about is a game called Urayama. Urayama literally means a mountain called Ura. If you try to look up the name and see if there's any kanji for it, there is not. It's completely spelled in katakana, which means there's no derivative or name behind the name of this town being called the Urayama, Ura Mountain. So that's enough about the origin of this town. You, this character in the game, are about, I'd say, high school age. You're on your summer break, which in Japan really isn't a summer break. The reason for that being is that there is no summer vacation in Japan. School just keeps going and going and going. And also, you switch years in April. You don't switch years to the next school grade in summer and August like we usually do here in the West. Usually schools switch over around April, some around March. It really depends on the school's schedule. That said, you are on your high school break, like I said, but it's just lightening the load slightly for a summer high school student. You still have a ton of work to do. And your dad is currently away. Your mom is not mentioned in this game, so she's either divorced or deceased. But your father is on vacation right now, or maybe a business trip. They don't fully explain it. He calls you. He says, son, I think you need to get yourself some food. You need to do your homework, and you need to stop playing them video games. What do? First thing you go out to do is find some food. Grub in town is pretty scarce, as this is in the middle of the countryside. You are definitely in a very rural area of Japan, as we don't see any kind of train line or buses running through here, and it tends to be fields for miles, a giant park, and that park has grass, which really means you're in the countryside because city parks do not have grass in Japan. You get to the end of the street near the park in your neighborhood because you hear the horn of a ramen truck. All right, I guess I got to go down this way. I don't know quite where to go. Usually there's kind of like this horn music that plays from a ramen cart, and that's what I'm trying to listen for. It's like da 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 da. That's usually the song, and you're probably wondering, Scott, how would you know that it's going to play that same song? Oh, there it is. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, dude. Ramen shopkeeper. Hi. Would you like some ramen? Yes, please. Okay, please wait a minute. All right, count to 60, guys. Here you are.
Okay, what do we got in the ramen here? It looks like he stuck a a tortilla inside. I guess I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Usually it's like seaweed and stuff on the side. What is that thing? It looks like pita bread or something. Here you are. Oh, okay. Thank you. How do I begin to eat this? Ooh, slurp. Was my ramen good? Dude, it was great. That was delicious. I'm glad to hear you say that. I quit my job a few years ago and started my own ramen shop. Well, I mean, I guess you didn't really quit a job then. I mean, you started a new job, right? Now your career is ramen man. Eat ramen while playing this. It'll be like virtual reality, I promise. Okay. I quit my job a few years ago and started my own ramen shop. I sell ramen in a lot of places. When people say it's delicious, I'm glad I kept doing it. Thank you. All right, man. Glad I made your day.
He serves it up to you real quick and you wolf it down with no problem at all and compliment him on, yeah, this taste is out of this world. It is incredible ramen. He thanks you. He says, love the compliments. This is why I do this job. Very passionate about cooking. I am living the dream by serving you this wonderful bowl of ramen. Seems great. Everything's going good. Now it's time to head back to your house. You're supposed to do your homework right now, as Dad had told you to do, but what do you do instead? You do regular kid things and you start playing video games. The video game that you play within this video game is a bit of a, I don't know, trope, if you will. It gets into the most iconic Japanese symbols possible, put in a sort of Mario type platformer where instead of collecting coins, you collect 5 yen coins. Instead of taking pipes or warps or portals, you take a torii gate to get to the next level. And when you finally die in this game, you end up in a strange, red, ominous field with something weird stalking you. It feels like you've suddenly been shoved into Slender Man, the 7 pages. Everything goes to static. You turn off the computer and just say, that was weird. I guess I'll go to bed. No bad omens there. I'm sure the rest of the night's going to be great. Just before you're about to hit the hay, you get a knock on the door and your local keisatsu, that is, the cops, are letting you know that recently a young boy went missing in the neighborhood. Although he's dressed like a homeless man in a mini version, he is actually a loved elementary school boy who all the neighborhood know. The cop asks you, have you seen him around here recently? Your answer is no, you have not. And if you do find out anything, you will definitely let the police know. You go ahead and say, wow, that was a little bit weird, but whatever, I'm going to bed now. You conk out, everything goes dark. It's a normal sleep pattern. Your circadian rhythm is on point until your dog starts barking and wakes you up. Pretty normal. Doggy's hungry. Let's go get him some food. You grab that food, you open the door, and oh no, what happens? Your door is opened wide enough to let poor Poochie just run the heck out. Well, you can't just leave him in the middle of the neighborhood alone at night barking in absolute terror. You decide what's the best thing to do. The exact opposite of what the cops told us to do, which was stay inside at night. No, let's go for a stroll in the middle of the night. It is midnight right now. It would be pretty creepy to walk around a Japanese rural town in the middle of the night at midnight. It is very dark.
All right. Oh, there he is. There he is. I found him, everybody. Pochi. Okay.
As you're walking through the park, you start to hear his voice come from the corner street. You head down there, you see him for just a brief moment before he bolts up the Urayama path to a hill nobody is supposed to climb.
You're making it harder and harder for me to want to bring you back, Pochi. I can't believe I'm going into the mountains behind the school. There have been rumors that this mountain has been haunted for a long time. I don't want to get close to it if I can, but I'm worried about Pochi. I have to look for Pochi. All right, you know what? I don't even care if I find Pochi. I just want to see the haunted mountain. Uh-oh, guys. Uh-oh. I mean, I saw it from like really far away, and it still got me. It still got me. Okay, so we're going through the torii gates. All right, a little bit of history on torii gates. Torii gates were usually set up around temples, castles, forts, strongholds, shrines, because they are considered to be a way to like lock evil out and lock good in. You'll often see these in the Fatal Frame series and stuff like that. They tend to have like kind of more outrageous ideas behind them that are not true. Like, for example, like tying a maiden to the torii gate until she dies and like bleeds on it to make it be more of a secure boundary between evil and good. As far as I know, researching things, that kind of stuff never actually happened in Japan. But torii gates are still to this day considered a way to, keep the evil out and keep the good in. All right, so the deeper we're going in is usually like the more hostile it's going to get, I guess. All right, another. That scared me too, man. Holy cow, I just clicked on it to see if I could do anything and it crumbled. All right, so what do we got here? Uh-oh. That's a bad sign. Boy, what do we got? Okay, that's my dog, so he's not going to be a ghost. What's the matter, Pochi? He didn't answer me in English? Is there something here? Pochi, I need a series of dialogue answers, please. Okay. All right, hold on. Let me bend down. Pochi. What's going on? Are you barking in silence? It's kind of creepy to just watch the dog bark without like anything coming out.
It's never fully explained, but this area has been condemned for a long time. Apparently, it has old sort of Edo-era structures, some of the old-timey sort of wood-based structures that use no nails whatsoever and were built by hand, erected, and put together via foundation that's completely wood. This is so it can survive earthquakes, bend and not break. A lot of the statues, though, along the way have been shattered. You got your classic Buddha statues, you got your classic Shinto statues, with the classic Shinto gods such as Baku the Dream Eater and Shiva the Destroyer, some of my favorite Shinto gods. As you're heading up that path, it starts to get creepier and creepier.
Oh, that is creepy. Oh, man. Oh, that is creepy. Holy, oh. All right, don't jump scare me again. Why don't we just have a civil dialogue? Okay. Now that I was ready for. Although I am kind of shocked that I fell through the floor. I didn't see that coming. Ouch. It looks like the floor collapsed. Oh, you really clued into that one, didn't you?
Since the floor has been rotting away for ages, you literally break through, fall down, and end up in a strange little alcove below the actual shrine itself. Is this a basement? Is this a storage shed? What is this area? You decide to start searching around, and what you find is pretty horrific. It is, and God, how can I say this in the best way possible without losing my AdSense on this video? That boy that went missing, he's there. He is not currently in a state of alive. He is currently in a state of the opposite of alive. He is also not fully in normal human form. He is in pieces of a human form. Those pieces have then been placed in a bag. That bag is full of those pieces and all the red stuff that used to be inside of his body. Yeah.
Ew. Gross. Someone left their groceries down here, right? What is that? Oh no, that's that kid's landfill. Oh, that's no good.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. You can hear flies buzzing. You're pretty horrified. Luckily, you find a ladder, climb back out, get back to the top, start to exit the gates, think, I am getting the heck out of here. This is horrific. Who stops you on the way back down? It's Ramen Man.
What do we do from here, guys? Oh. Uh-oh. Ramen guy's back. What are you doing there? Okay, we could say I found a dead body at the shrine. Obviously not a good idea to say. I was looking for my dog. Dog? By the way, did you go inside the shrine? I'm not in it? Is he saying that or am I saying that? And what do you mean? I'm not in it? You mean I didn't go into it? Oh, whoa, wait. But I didn't even get a chance to run. Whoa, that guy had quite a punch.
He punches you in the way that maybe a Dragon Ball Z character would punch you. You go flying through the air, the screen turns red, and your body ends up the same way the body of that small child did. You also find out that the body parts and what was once on the inside of you is soon going to end up in the ramen that he's been cooking in that neighborhood. That's right, his special ingredient, it's Soylent Green. Soylent Green is human.
Try again. Try and run around the backside of it, maybe. But I think you can't make a full circle around it, right? Doesn't it cut you off at some point? Oh, I did it. Is this guy not gonna get tired or anything? Be like, hey, can you stop running? I'm not long distance. I'm fast twitch muscle. I can only do sprints. 400, 800 meter dash. Alright? 16K, no thank you. Running through the hole. Oh, I made it. Oh! Don't move.
Luckily, there is another ending that you can get. Pretty much 3 endings. Getting, massacred by that dude, or ending up in his ramen. Or if you're able to run past him and get all the way back down the Urayama path to the very edge, that cop we saw earlier, who we kind of laughed off as a bit of a joke, overweight, out of shape, donut-eating cop, turns out to be the hero of the story.
Oh, there we go. He helped me. Is this a good ending? The ramen shopkeeper was arrested by the police on patrol. It turned out that the man had murdered the missing boy and dumped his body under the shrine. It appears that the body's flesh had been processed by mixing it with ramen noodles. Really? The police are investigating him for multiple other crimes. Even now, I can't forget the heart of that time and the taste of the ramen. I suddenly have the burps.
Way to save the day. Sorry, but that little kid's still dead and people were still eating ramen made out of his body. But I guess this is the happiest ending you can get. Urayama is a really interesting take on a dev's very first game. Number one, I want to give it an A+ on atmosphere. The ambience is quintessential rural Japan, Inaka as they call it. You get out there and there is the spice of hearing cicadas buzz in the middle of the night. You've got sort of the old K2 trucks parked around the corners. Even though it is the countryside, things are still built way too close to each other, creating itty-bitty alleyways that you would never go down, which is the way actual Japanese countryside is. It's amazing. It literally just feels like going back to the countryside of Japan. For example, maybe a place like down in Kyushu, Okinawa, maybe Sapporo, outside area of Hokkaido, and just exploring on my own and visiting all the great places. The ramen kiosk is set up perfectly. It's got the exact sound and horn that actual ramen vendors in Japan use, so you get the authentic experience with that. And the fact that he serves you the ramen really quick right away and with his own special ingredients is something that happens a lot in Osaka too. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who have their own special recipe of maybe takoyaki, okonomiyaki, and of course, ramen. I loved being in this tiny little Urayama world for just about maybe an hour that I was there. It's a short but sweet story. Some people complained, I noticed in the comments and ratings of Steam, that it was little more than a walking simulator and you don't really do anything in this game. Well, if you don't try to get the good ending of having the cop save the day and running down the mountain, if you give up too quick, yeah, I guess it really is kind of a walking simulator where you just kind of click on stuff. But it gets pretty intense when you're being chased by the ramen killer, as I have now dubbed him. I wouldn't be so harsh on a dev who just put out a brand new first-time game. The dev's name is just Yamato, and I guess that's also the name of the dev company. Shout out to Yamato. First game went great. Love it. If I were to give it any kind of, I don't know, review, I would say overall A+ game. If there was anything I would work on, it's try not to stick with machine translation. Find a gaijin friend who will localize it for you. Some of the English, especially near the end, starts to break down and get kind of comical. But some people love that wonky English translation when it's Japan trying to do their best with their Japanglish. I myself dealt with it quite a bit all throughout living in Japan. There are some pretty hilarious t-shirts, shop names such as Massive Alien Girl Eats World, one of my favorite shops to go to. There's a children's store in Japan called Starvations. So English being used in Japan sometimes is sometimes only used as a decoration, just like we tend to use kanji here in America. People get bad kanji tattoos in America, and guess what? People get bad English tattoos in Japan. And sometimes they get bad translations in first time video games too. We're going to let that slide. This dev knows what they're doing. And I think if they keep pursuing the path of making more games like Urayama, they are going to create great things. Give Urayama a shot. I think it's about $2 on Steam. And give a shout out to Yamato for his first creation. Next up on the list is a kind of well-known Japanese developer, or really it's a group. It's two brothers, Chilla's Art. These two brothers were born in America. They are American Japanese, and eventually they did move to Japan, and while they were there, they fell in love with the scenery. They fell in love with the cityscapes. They fell in love with the nightlife, and that's what they wanted to create in their games, putting you in the beautiful ambience that is Japan. It may be in the very city, dark, urban noir areas of Tokyo, or sometimes you're out in the middle of like a bathhouse in the middle of the countryside. I have a sort of love-hate relationship with Chilla's art. The thing I hate is the fact that they are native-born American, so their English should be okay in these games, but it's not. It is really not, and I don't know why. If someone has a reason behind why the English isn't okay in these games, please explain it to me, because grammar is not Chilla's art strong point. I also sometimes really love the stories because they're interesting, although at times vague, but nonetheless lead down in path of pretty decent scares. There's some good puzzles. There's more interaction than some of these other walking simulator games, as they call them. So there's that. Sometimes there's some chase scenes, what makes them kind of exciting. And there's usually some pretty decent dialogue going on with you and the other characters. And there's also multiple characters within each game, which I do enjoy. Although at times, like I said, Chilla's art is really hit or miss. I did try to originally do a game called Night Delivery, which I also played on stream for our Oshi Nights. And that story just kind of goes nowhere.
Can't open this door. Can open this one. Okay. The screen is shaking. Are we having an earthquake? What is going on? Oh, wait. Can I still move? Oh. Maybe I'm the last person to get killed by Kohei? Okay, let's see Kohei. Like, why is everybody so... Ending 2? What? Okay. I'm super confused. Is it like you go back up, I guess you're murdered, and you see the feet of the killer. I can't skip the credits. Guys, how do you feel about this one? I liked Urayama better, honestly. Um, is your, okay, so you're a delivery man. Okay, let me try to track the story, and please correct me if you feel like I'm going off the rails here. Um, you're a delivery man. You've got packages to deliver. It's your last apartment of the night. You deliver it to multiple neighbors, some which are strange, some are kooky, quirky, etc. During that time, you find letters for the past resident known as Kohei. Kohei seems to be having a lot of trouble adapting to his new environment. People are treating him horribly, which not cool. So he goes on a killing rampage. Every resident ends up in his apartment complex, or his apartment room, dead. And then for the ending, you take the role of the landlord and you wander up to his apartment and he kills you too. The end. So I don't I don't get it. Like, am I losing track of something here that I'm not understanding? I'd say it's worth what you paid. Okay, $2.99. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like I said, the narrative just doesn't make sense. It's not good for putting together a video. And this is kind of why Chilla's Heart is hit or miss. I feel like sometimes they have an amazing game like Parasocial, which was great, Stigmatized Property, which I'm just about to talk about. And then they have like a garbage game like a Jisatsu, which I almost made it to the very end of, but got so sick of how poorly made, how glitchy, how broken, how messed up it was. And I don't mean messed up in like, ooh, it's too scary and gory for me. No, it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It's really glitched out and broken. And that's another big problem with their games. I feel like they rush through them so much that number one, their grammar is always screwed up. And number two, there's so many glitches that it's easy to soft lock, break, or just not be able to finish their games because they didn't finish making them themselves. Even as I was playing the game I'm going to talk about now, Stigmatized Property, I literally got soft locked live as I was streaming.
Can I get it? What? I feel like I should be able to pick these up. These are like the crumpled up notes. Okay, so why am I not able to pick these up? Guys, I'm feeling like I'm running into a bug here. Oh, shoot. Guys, guess what? You can soft lock the game by picking up the hook and the cat at the same time. Great, awesome. Now, see, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about where they rush through making these games. This is ridiculous, man. Are you kidding me? There's no way to... Yeah, I soft locked the game. Awesome. Now, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, I love their games. I love the ambience. I love, the idea behind it all. And I'm always frustrated by the fact that they rush through making these and leave all kinds of problems in them. All right, so how do I get out of... There's not even an exit. Awesome. Just got to start over. There's no save, there's nothing.
All right. These guys have made 31 games at this point. 31, okay? If a dev who, like Urayama and Yamato, who made that game, made a mistake on his very first game, I would be very, very forgiving with glitches and problems like that. Game number 31, it's time to start wrapping up these glitches you keep running into where the game breaks so badly you soft lock players out of finishing the game they paid for. Chilla's Art, let's get it together, boys, okay? All right. Harsh criticism aside, I love Chilla's Art. I love the ambience, the environments. I feel like also Chilla's Art has sound effects on lockdown. Their background sort of drone music or tiny little blurps and bloops of nighttime ambience, and they're sort of always in the sense of urban noir setting in the middle of downtown Tokyo, or even if you're just at a karaoke club in one of their games. I feel like they really, really capture that nighttime mood in Japan. That sort of lonely, trudging through the grimy streets that are just clean enough to make it passable for you to get by, but just dirty enough where you feel a little bit unsettled is done really, really well. Now, in Stigmatized Property, you play the main character, Sayaka, who has been invited to come check out her high school friend's brand new apartment that he has gotten on the cheap after he moved to college. You guys have both just started college. You decide you're going to head over there and check out this place. And when you do, the first ominous thing happens. He has been given apartment number 401. If you don't know, the number 4 is bad in Japan. It can either be said as yon or she. She is also the word for death. It's phonetically spelled the same, but of course the kanji is different. Shi is bad. 4 is bad. Death is bad. Okay? There is no number 4 room in the hospital or on planes in Japan. And there's also not number room 40 through 49 because 9 is also kind of a bad number in Japan. It's pronounced ku, and ku can also mean suffering or torture. You probably don't want to be in the death and suffering room at the hospital when you're in Japan. Nonetheless, you decide to go there anyway and visit your friend's brand new place. When you get there, the first thing that Sayaka exclaims is, "Sugoi ne, hontoni hiroi apato." She's impressed with how big this place is and can't believe that a brand new college kid is being able to afford such a massive apartment in the middle of downtown Tokyo. He is able to afford this because, and here we go, we got the name, it is a stigmatized property. What is a stigmatized property in Japan? Well, it's something that's also sometimes known as a Shinrei point, which means like a paranormal, occult, or deadly ghost point. And the reason they consider it this is usually something tragic has happened at that apartment. It makes it very cheap, and the landlord has to disclose for the next 8 years that either someone had themselves deleted there or they deleted another person. Why am I saying it in such a manner? Because I got an ad suitability strike on that video just for literally saying the words involved with what happened at that apartment. But when I say someone deleted themselves or they deleted another person, I assume you guys are bright enough to understand what happened at that apartment. Well, as you decide to go in there, you take a knock on the door and your friend never answers it. Then suddenly, out of the blue, Sayaka remembers, oh yeah, he said he left his key under the lemon plant. She moves it aside, grabs that key, opens the door, gets inside. It's huge, it's massive, it's the biggest apartment she's ever seen for a college kid, but her friend is still not there. The only thing that is there, an empty journal with 7 pages ripped out of it. That's right, you're about to go walk around finding someone's horrific notations of what's been going down in a scary place that's been abandoned, that they're not at, that has a creepy atmosphere, that you're wondering, where is my friend? Well, what did he do? He had a bad time. He wrote down about it, tore it out of his diary, and threw it all around town like you do when you're in a horror game. You decide to go around and find all these 7 pages, and I'm going to try and remember off the top of my head where you find each of them. The first one is being held in a crow's mouth, which you have to either give him a dead cat or a fish off the street that's laying in the garbage to get him to drop the note. There's another one with a hole in the wall that has blood kind of conspicuously leaking out of it, and you use a hook to grab that note and pull it through the hole. You read that one. You've got another note inside of a vending machine. Usually this is the one you can't get to the very end, but it really doesn't matter which way you get these notes because no matter what, they end up going in the order of number 1 through number 7, telling you what has happened to your friend. There is another note just simply laying in the street. There is another one laying inside his mom's car that has been strangely parked at the apartment when his mom came to visit, but she's not there either, and she hasn't been seen for a long time, and that's what's told to you in the note that you find in his diary. There's some more notes laying around. I guess I could just keep going over how you find each note, but nonetheless, the game is a note searching game. It's kind of like Slender and the 7 pages, but no one's chasing you the whole time. You do get a couple jump scares here and there. Some don't really make any sense. Like, I don't know what it means when you see a man's shadow in an alleyway in a red umbrella laying down in the street. That's never fully explained. Other ones do make sense. For example, when you go to the post office area of the apartment, you see the landlord facing the corner of the wall, and when you get inside there, he suddenly disappears. You find a memo he left behind that talks about the origin of the apartment and why it's so messed up. Apparently, this apartment is a cursed apartment, a Ju-on. If you've watched the movie Ju-on, you know it translates to the word curse or grudge, right? A grudge is a different sort of concept when it comes to the paranormal and occult in Japan. It means something bad that happened in that apartment, house, wherever, is going to happen over and over and over again. Kind of like what you would call a residual haunting in Western paranormal society. It means that same thing is going to play out no matter who's there, who takes it over, or who moves in. So if a person deleting another person happened inside that apartment, the next person's going to get deleted too. In fact, it might get so bad that it gets such an overpowering presence of past ghosts or evil spirits within that apartment that they can even take over the new person leasing the apartment. And that's what happens, and that's what you read about in this memo you find left behind by the landlord. He says, this apartment's possessed, and it will possess each person that moves in there. If I don't get a new person in there to get possessed by the apartment will start to hurt my family. I don't want it to hurt my family, so I just keep feeding it new human souls. As I feed it new human souls, it goes through a process of first possessing them in the first week, making them go crazy and do crazy stuff. For example, I don't know, write a horrific 7-page diary, rip out the pages and leave it all around the complex. And then from there, the person eventually dies in some tragic manner and becomes a ghost and is forgotten by everyone who ever knew them. This is what's happened to your friend. We're just going to cut to the chase. All spoilers revealed. And you slowly realize this by finding all the notes of his diary. Now, there's 2 different endings that can happen within this game. If you find all the notes, and on your journey to find all these notes, you also stop at 4 shrines that are in the neighborhood, you get this warm feeling, as Sayaka says. This means you've been kind of blessed by the gods. They're looking out for you. They're going to make sure you're not possessed by the apartment because you actually haven't leased it or moved in. And you walk away from the apartment saying, man, I don't know whatever happened to him. Things must have really gone bad. Also, who am I talking about? Why did I visit that apartment? Did I ever have a friend in college? Yes, you have forgotten that person. The curse has come true. That's the good ending, is you completely forget your friend who's been erased from existence. The bad ending is you also become a new ghost haunting the apartment. And not only is it just you haunting the apartment, you are now haunting the apartment with your friend who went missing and your friend's mother. It's really interesting to watch the whole story progress because you start to see your friend go crazier and crazier as he talks about girls he has crushes on and is like manically stalking. And then he talks about his mother is suddenly always fighting with his father, which never used to happen before, but that she tries to smile and pretend like nothing happened, but she's got this fake smile that shows in only her face but not in her eyes. And then the one night that she gets in such a bad fight that she comes to visit you up in your apartment and talks about how much she hates your dad, which is really weird. She never used to do that. When you wake up the next morning, your mother's gone and you've gone completely crazy. And the last note that you leave is, it's all gone wrong, the end, scribbling that I can't read, scratch, 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 craziness, 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 and you disappear from reality. And again, as I said, as Sayaka, the main character, if you follow suit by finding all of these 7 pages and staying in the apartment too long without going to any of the 4 shrines, you also join the ghosts in this apartment and become the new Ju-on haunting the next inhabitant. Overall, pretty decent game. The story can get a little bit convoluted, and like I said, one of the most annoying aspects of this story is you can soft lock it very easily. The only thing that soft locks it is simply picking up 2 items at one time. Nothing in the game tells you you shouldn't pick up 2 items at one time. There's also a lot of other aspects of the game that just don't really make sense or are poorly programmed. There's an orange little arrow pointing onto items that you're able to interact with, but they tell you when you're allowed to interact with them, and if you haven't done certain things yet, you just can't pick them up, and there's no message letting you know that. Also, like I said, there's just bad grammar. I don't know if Chilla's art never learned what past and future tense was or what, but guys, grab an English book, head back to grammar school, get a little more knowledge on it, and then use it in your next game. Chilla's art, so hit or miss. Sometimes they do so good and really capture a great scare, a great story, a wonderful bit of Japanese lore or Toshiden Setsu, Bukimi no Tani Gensho, which is the uncanny valley and urban legends of Japan. But sometimes I feel like they just rush through a game and create complete garbage, such as a game like Jisatsu or Night Delivery, which honestly I wasn't very impressed with. I'm sorry to say, that's my honest opinion. Let's move on to the next one. Last but most definitely not least is the favorite bunch of these games that I played by another brand new developer known as simply Shirio, or it looks like C Leo if you look at it, but I read the katakana to get the pronunciation, so we're going to go with Chilla. It is literally translated to Japanese House Exploration. Type that into Steam if you want to find it. You go into a Japanese house and explore it, but there's more of a story to it than that. Kaoku Tansaku, which translates literally to house search, but goes by the slightly better name of Japanese house exploration, is a quaint little indie game which places you in the role of an elementary age schoolboy named Yamato. One day, on his way home, Yamato's good friend Nadeshiko announces she will be taking a detour on her way home to check out a brand new house that has been built in the neighborhood. Confused by this proclamation, Yamato asks if the area the house is built in truly has anything in it, as the last time he checked out that part of his neighborhood, it was nothing but a barren lot. Nadeshiko adamantly denies this by replying that not only has a house recently been built there, but there is something about its presence that calls to her and is begging her to peer inside. Yamato, completely confused by this statement, tries to make sense of Nadeshiko's belief that this abode is somehow beckoning her to visit. What does she mean when she says it calls to her? Does she literally hear the house speaking to her in some manner? Nadeshiko simply states that she can't fully explain how the house calls to her, but that her urge to answer the call has become too great, and today will be the day she finally visits this strange new addition to their otherwise mundane neighborhood. Yamato pleads with Nadeshiko to think twice about investigating such a strange destination, as both their teachers, their parents, and even the police have recently been warning about multiple children missing in the area surrounding said house. Nonetheless, Nadeshiko, in some sort of trance-like state, ignores Yamato's pleads and beelines it straight for the brand new Japanese house, unaware of the fate that lies in store for both her and the innocent yet brave Yamato. A day or so passes and Nadeshiko has not returned to school or her house. Yamato begs any adult with any sort of authority to investigate the brand new Japanese house Nadeshiko spoke of in the neighborhood. But alas, the adults in Yamato's life brush him off as young and foolish, as they too remember nothing but an empty lot where supposedly such a house is located. Yamato insists there really truly is a strange house there. At a loss for any sort of adult input or assistance, Yamato makes the brave but maybe foolish journey to investigate this supposed house himself. And this is where our first bit of control begins in Japanese house exploration. Excuse me, is anyone home? Ellipses. The front door was unlocked, but maybe no one is home? So you're just gonna help yourself into their house? Huh? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It won't open now. I can't open it. I'm trapped. I can't believe the door closed on its own. I can't believe this door requires a key from the inside. That is kind of odd. I've never heard of such a thing. My first impression of this game was the title screen, buzzing with the sound of cicadas, instantly giving me a rich nostalgic taste of every Japanese summer I've ever lived through over the past 16 years. The cicada itself is known as the semi in Japanese, and is considered a well-known symbol for wabi-sabi art and storytelling that revolves around finding beauty in sadness or enrichment through tragic observation. As you may know, the cicada is considered quite a tragic insect in its own right, as it is burrowed deep underground in a larvae or nymph state for anywhere from 13 to 17 years, growing, hibernating, and preparing to one day emerge from a nearly 2-decade slumber, only to survive in an animated and fully active state for only 4 to 6 weeks before running themselves into a rapid decline in health, physical strength, and eventually life itself. Multiple titles among Japanese media refer to the cicada mostly to portray and broadcast to the viewer that this will most likely be a sad, tragic, or even haunting tale that will pull at your heartstrings. Some examples you may have seen or I feel should be at least recommended is Higurashi no Naka Koro ni, sometimes known as When the Cicadas Cry, or more popularly known as When They Cry, which has been a visual novel, a manga, an anime, a live-action movie, and even a reboot already. Although personally I would only recommend the visual novel or the original anime series, and really only the first season of that series. Another more recent movie from 2010 would be Hachinichi Me no Semi, or in English, Eighth Day of the Cicada. It's also known as Rebirth, which is a heart-wrenching tale about a woman known as Kiwako. She's devastated after a man she has been having an affair with manipulates her into getting an abortion by promising to marry her. And like the true piece of garbage he is, he refuses to divorce his wife. Kiwako is crushed by the betrayal and overwrought with sadness post-abortion. She has a full mental breakdown, and when she finds out the man who betrayed her has broken off their affair, now his own wife is pregnant, and he has become the wonderful, doting husband and father Kiwako had dreamed of. Without a thought for the consequences, Kiwako intervenes on the day of their child's birth by kidnapping the child from the hospital. Kiwako then raises the child as her own, while being a fugitive from the law. What follows is a slow burn that just leads to non-stop insanity, sadness, and broken-hearted desperation that tears Kiwako into a shell of a woman. That's what viewers will not just sympathize with, but also struggle to watch to the very end. And that's just my explanation of the title screen. So, hoping I won't make a video about a 1 to 2 hour game longer than the game itself, let's actually delve into where we begin the game post-opening dialogue of Nadeshiko going missing, and the mysterious new house she spoke of that adults can't see, but Yamato has been able to not just get into when he arrives, but is now locked inside without an escape, only left to explore and investigate. Upon playing and entering the house for the first time, my clearest thoughts were that the graphics were crisp, clean, and that the author had thankfully relied on storytelling outside of the gore and slasher run and hide type horror that is out there in boatloads, but rather the subtle Japanese ambience told to us through simple storylines and tiny hints throughout the architecture of the house, rather than smashing us over the head with the trope of walls laden in grit and grime with a sepia smoky filter smeared all over some sort of cheap Unity assets. Quite the opposite was a very pleasant surprise, as was the fact that there were integral and just everyday common Japanese household items there. And not only that, all, if not everything, could be clicked on and read about. My next thought was that it was pretty impolite and not very Japanese at all for our main protagonist to simply burst into the house and open the door rather than getting an invitation and him just letting himself in with no announcement whatsoever. Later, when I realized we're playing as a small Japanese boy, maybe of the age of 8 or 9, and that we were also in the ultra high safety level of Japan, I realized I needed to get my Gaijin mind out of the way here and stop trying to Americanize this experience. I had to open up my Nihonjin eyes and see it with that POV so that I could navigate with the proper mindset. That said, it was time to explore. Explore and learn if this tale that this house had to tell was worthy of something dark and unsettling. The most interesting feature was the fact that the house appeared to be some sort of strange Showa-era 1980s hybrid with all sorts of paper-thin shoji doors, straw tatami mat-laden floors. Meanwhile, there's this very early 80s hybrid mix to the house that we realize is completely outside of Yamato's modern life, as he sees VHS tapes and wonders if they are some sort of game cartridge. He's shocked by a phone that is connected to the wall. That's a good question. My son just asked, what is a landline? A long time ago, back when we used to smash stones together to make fire, they had phones that connected to the wall. Yeah. And best of all, in the most childlike mindset that only a child could possibly make, I suppose, is the assumption that the black and white CRT TV in the house is so thick and large with its black vents at the back of its tube, it most likely doubles as a pet carrier for cats to be held inside, hence the hissing of the fuzz and static. Makes little to no sense to us as adults in the modern age, but perhaps to a child who had only ever seen flat-screen TVs. This is a perfect reason for the large size to the TV. Can I turn on the... Oh, it's very thick. I wonder if there's a cat inside. What? Who looks at a CRT tube TV and says, it's so large, I think there's a cat inside? What? Is this... The screen is also square-shaped, quite different from nowadays. Okay, but what made you think there was a cat inside? Who says something like that? Okay, hold on. What kind of observation is that? These innocent observations turn to a panic for young Yamato as he realizes not only has he found the house that Nadeshiko spoke of, but he is now locked into that house and unable to leave until he unravels its dark history. Wandering through the foyer and the shoe-filled Genkan, we realize the size and age of Yamato right away when he must nab an umbrella from the entrance simply to reach high enough on a shelf in the bathroom to knock a flashlight off. We also start to realize just how weird this house is, as a peek inside the bathroom next to said toilet hosts a glowing ball of light that rattles poor Yamato. He has no clue what sort of paranormal entity he has encountered for the first time in his life, and no wish to get anywhere close to it. Right away, I remarked to my viewers that this had to be the yokai known as Onibi. What is this? It's shining brightly. Oh, okay. I thought this was just like an icon that meant we could touch the bath, but it actually exists in game. Okay. It's an Onibi, right? If I were to classify this, I would think it's an Onibi. It's scary, so let's not touch it. Onibi is usually a human, animal, or yokai soul from someone that's departed. And if it stays here on Earth, it's kind of like a floating sort of orb of light. Different Onibis mean different things according to the color. I don't remember all of them offhand. I do think a blue one, it's either like blue or white means human. You don't know? Okay. As stated in my playthrough, often blue and white Onibi are souls of the departed Ningen or humans who have passed over to the other side. Still, none of this matters to our poor protagonist Yamato, who, no matter how hard I tried to guide him to communicate or investigate with this ball of light, he refused. Instead, we are led to the first room on our left upon entering the abandoned house, which, when first inspected, is too dark for poor Yamato to even be brave enough to enter. Now, with flashlight in hand, Yamato pushes forward. He is now willing and brave enough to enter the study, where he must solve a simple color/number-based puzzle. It allows us to break into the study's small yet intriguing safe, where inside we happen upon our very first key, allowing us to enter the kitchen. Our entrance to this new extension of the house seems innocent enough at first, until a massive, lumbering spirit makes its presence known. For now, all we can make out is a hunched-over figure with skin as pale white as bone. jet black hair covering the sides of their face, a deep, unsettling grimace across their face. We see them only for a split second, but that's all it takes for us to be unnerved. Who is this person? What presence do they have amongst this dark, foreboding house? Only further investigation and storytelling will reveal. Another one that fell down. Ah! Well, that's no good. What was that just now? A human? But clearly not a normal one. I need to be careful not to encounter it. Who talks like this? To be honest, at this point, I was starting to wonder if there was any true scares in this game. And let's just say that first spirit we encountered didn't exactly move me to a shaken state. I got a strange phone call next that let me know that indeed the Onibi floating in the bathtub was a soul fragment of a dearly departed human. Gotta work on that English. The key is locked. Ah! Yeah. I got the. Okay. Ellipses. Mysterious man. Collecting soul frag. Yeah, you're right. It should be the doors locked. Good one, Maki. Collecting soul frag. Soul fragment? What? So doi. You can defeat that. Please help. H. Okay. What was that message? And I was wondering if this game was ever gonna stir me emotionally in a horrific way whatsoever until I finally did make my way into the kitchen. Thinker? Alright. There we go! But now my flashlight doesn't work. Okay. Oh. The story behind this house is a very strange one. It took me a little bit of while to put it all together. I didn't quite figure it out as I was playing the game, but when I went back and watched my playthrough, I think I've finally put it together. And look, this is just me theorizing on what the whole story of the game is. If you play this game, and I highly advise that you do, again, it's $2. Let me know what you think actually happened here. So from what I understand, this house calls out to children. Like psychically, it's sending them messages that says, hey, I'm a brand new house in the neighborhood, come check me out. And when they hear this, they become, I don't want to say possessed, but almost like zombified, almost like lured to the house like the Pied Piper, and they have to go inside. Once they're in there, the house traps them and eventually even consumes their soul. And their soul can be actually placed inside of this house as a new item in the house. You actually end up collecting some of these souls as you finally leave it. The other weird thing about this house is there's this sort of strange, I don't know what I would call this creature, but I believe it is an ubume, okay? If you don't know the yokai ubume, it's a pretty tragic story. It is a woman who, during the Edo era, or feudalistic Japan, was forced to have an abortion. Why are you forced to have an abortion during that time? Well, if you are having a child and the leader of the village says, all right, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we got this many people. All right, we've growing this much rice this year. Oh, guess what? I know you're pregnant, but your child's going to make it too many people with not enough rice. You need to have an abortion. Whoa, harsh. My God. What do they do when they force someone to have an abortion during feudalistic Japan? They have this wonderful ritual ceremony that they give them a thing called a kokeshi doll. If you've never heard of the kokeshi doll, it is that sort of very creepy, armless, sometimes arm doll that is very pale, has long black hair, kind of looks like if a minion was painted white and given a wig. It's not a very nice thing to look at, but these were given out as a carved wood doll to the person who was forced to have an abortion to be like, hey, look, no, you had to give up the baby. Guess what? We're going to give you this doll to remind you you almost had a baby, and this is going to kind of take the place of their soul in your household. I don't know why back then they thought this would be like something to calm the mother down. She's just gone through a horrible, traumatic, forced abortion. And your first thought is, look, I know you just went through that. Hold this doll and pretend it's your baby. You're going to feel fine. It was feudalistic times, guys, all right? Psychology wasn't exactly on point back then. So you're being chased by a woman known as an ubume, which is a woman who was forced to have an abortion and now haunts the spirit world as someone constantly screaming and crying out to steal a child. If you look up pictures or any sort of lore behind the ubume, it's sort of this sad-looking mother dressed in like either white or red robes, running around holding a baby to her chest. And the reason she's doing this is because she had to lose her own baby. Now she's going to go out and run out to the neighborhood and steal other people's babies to get back that baby she lost. You also are stalked by the Kokeshi doll that I guess she was probably given to get over her trauma. This probably is something that happened in this area in feudalistic Japan a very long time ago. You got to remember, Japan's history is long. It is layered. And yes, some bad stuff has happened in the areas that more modern day Japan is being built on top of. And this is, I guess, again, a residual spirit left over from something horrible that happened during Edo era or just some part of feudalistic Japan. It might be as far back as Tale of the Genjis type area. We don't know. No one ever explains that. But you do start to find notes from other children who had been trapped there and escaped, other children that were trapped there and couldn't escape, people who tried to get out of the house. And you start to realize that the reason you're being stalked by this giant ubume yokai, sad baby-seeking woman and her friendly, maybe friendly, never attacks you, Kokeshi doll, is this is the residual haunting left over. This house will continue to consume children's souls until it is finally healed by erasing and saving all the souls that have been left over in here. It's weird because you kind of have to put it together by getting phone calls from ghosts that try to explain to you why there is soul fragments left around the house, but you also get lore from the notes of people who've been trapped there and tried to escape. Putting these all together, you start to realize first, Nadeshiko can be found, and she is found, if you decide not to be a wimp and get the worst ending possible. As soon as you do go through all the puzzles and find the key for the exit, you can quit the game right there, leave, and you get the worst ending possible. Your friend Nadeshiko, never seen again. The house disappears. You try to tell the police where she was, and since the house disappeared, she's no longer there, neither is the house, and the police yell at you like, hey, you idiot kid, don't make stuff up. We're really trying to investigate what happened to your friend, who you never see again, and become a sad old man who wish they could one day see their friend Nadeshiko again. There's a second level of that where you do save Nadeshiko, but you don't save any of the souls of the children who are left behind in that house.
What? We just ran as fast as we could, just to get away from that house.
Okay.
I wonder how much time has passed. Before I knew it, we was near her house. Why are you talking like that now? For now, we decided to disband there to let Nadeshiko's parents know that we were safe. The next day, Nadeshiko came to school as usual. It seems she got scolded by her parents yesterday, and she's feeling quite down about it. She got she was missing, and her parents found her, and they're just like, "You little disaster." Wouldn't you be like so happy you found your kid? I don't know. After that, there have been a number of children going missing from the town. The adults thought that this was a series of kidnappings, and the town was in a state of tension for a while. We had some clue about the incident, so we told the teacher and the police about that house and the monster. Afterwards, we visited the Japanese house with the police. Impossible. It had returned to being an empty lot. The police scolded us, telling us not to make fun of adults. What? How do we make fun of adults? Okay, whatever. So we never talked about it again. It's been a few years since then, and now I'm living in a different place. I left this town, you mean that town, when I started university. I still traumatized by that monster. so I try to avoid going back home as much as possible. I've become completely estranged from Nadeshiko. Aww. And it seems she doesn't come home very often either. My mother told me that recently there have been a lot of missing children local area. Wow, that sentence makes zero sense. Why is local capitalized? Sorry, having been an English teacher in Japan, this drives me insane. My mother told me that recently there have been a lot of missing children local area. The image of that monster immediately came to mind. However, now that I'm an adult, there's nothing I can do. What do you mean now is the time you can do something? Go back and beat the monster up. You're an adult now. I just pray that the children get out of the house safely, ending to endless tragedy. So your whole, just shogunai, nothing can be done. Oh well. Alright, let's try to see what the other ending is.
One of the best endings as far as I've gotten, and I've gotten 3 different endings, and I'm sure there's probably some more, but I haven't done it yet. You save Nadeshiko, you get her out of the house, but before you do, you go around and collect all the baby souls. That's right, you have to do this quick sprint through the house where you're trying to outrun the Ubume and get past her to collect all the souls of the children who have been eaten up by this house. And if you do that, and you do get Nadeshiko, and you do get all the baby souls and leave the house, it has a really nice ending.
I saw that man talking to the monster. He must be one of the monster's friends. No mercy. Burn all the dolls you receive. Okay, so that's why the doll is, upset too. Alright, where could the last one be? Hopefully she's not coming through this hallway. Alright, I did it. Where could the last one be? What do you guys think? My guess is, no? Okay. I found it. Okay. Why do you take away my hope? I will never forgive! I take it from you! Your light of hope. Sure. Uh-oh. Wait, does that mean we beat her? Oh, cool, I got a cutscene. Our powers combined. We shoot you with life fragments. Is you good now? You gonna give me the finger? What? Did you reach inside your chest? Oh no! Wait. Okay, well. Okay. Why would you do something like that? And those last words, what does it mean? Anyway, is this the end? Let's go back to Nadeshiko's place. I'm so confused. Who's saying that? Who's saying what? Oh, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. What? Huh? When we noticed, we were just standing in an empty lot. The house had vanished without a trace, as if it had never existed in the first place. We decided to go back home before the sun completely set. Since then, there have been no more rumors of children going missing. We stopped the town from having this curse. Several years have passed since then, but nothing in particular has happened, and Nadeshiko and I are living a peaceful life. Was it that monster's fault? Ellipses. So what exactly was that monster, and the true identity of the man on the phone? Why are there so many children missing? And why did that monster say thank you at the end? Now, that Japanese house has disappeared. There is no way to investigate further. Ending 1, the savior. I think this is best ending.
The Ubume actually thanks you for freeing all the children, and the house disappears forever. And although the police never do find out there was a baby soul eating house, they tell you thank you for getting Nadeshiko to safety. You're the hero of your town. You and Nadeshiko get married. Children are never going missing in the village ever again. Good ending. It is a really interesting game. The story is really well written. The notes you find are very interesting. The creator of the game is obviously a native Japanese speaker and used machine translation to create all the dialogue in the game for the English readers of the game. And what made it a little bit difficult to understand is because it's machine translation, you sound like an adult robot when you're talking. So it took me a while to figure out that you were an elementary school aged kid. As I did finally realize that, a lot of the things he says makes more sense, as far as like he's never seen a landline phone before. He thinks VHS tapes are video game cassettes, and he thinks that cats live in the back of CRT tube TVs. It's funny, it's cute, it adds this sort of balance between the horror and kind of the kawaii version of Japanese stories. It's cool to see his interactions with Nadeshiko and you and her figuring out this puzzle together about the souls being left in the house. The puzzles even within the game are interesting and very varied, to the point that you don't feel like you're just repeating the same darn puzzles over and over. Chilla's art, take note. This, for a first-time dev's creation, is really, really well put together. I only experienced one crash at the very beginning dialogue where I couldn't get out of the opening dialogue screen, but after I got past that, I never experienced any other bugs at all. The only thing that was a little bit weird is there's like some screen tearing and like dropout of different textures when you move around too fast. There's also this added point to the game where there's these X's on the floor that make the floor creak if you walk over them, and they never fully explain if that actually affects you being chased by the ubume. Nonetheless, I loved it. I had a great time with this game. My viewers love the game. The story is deep and rich. It also includes like a lot of Japanese history in the puzzles that you solve in the game that talk about bubble era Japan. If you don't know, it was the 1980s when Japan was really blowing up and making a lot of money. And then eventually when the bubble popped, everything went downhill and people were horribly depressed and stuff like that. So you go almost all the way from Edo era feudalistic Japan, seeing tragedies happen then, all the way up through like the 1980s and stuff like that, up to modern day where children are going missing in the neighborhood. And it's just a really rich, layered story and environment. A game I would highly recommend, considering it's the dev's very first game with an amazing story, well thought out puzzles, and it's $2. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Definitely check out Japanese House Exploration by Shi Dio, and I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. I didn't even tell you all the endings. There's still, I think, 2 more endings to the game, 5 in total, that you yourself could learn about. I just love that the house keeps getting bigger and bigger, it seems like, as you explore. Every time I thought I was done with the game, there was like a new door to open, there was a new puzzle to solve, and there was a new story to find out and a deeper history to the house. Very, very well put together game. Anyway, guys, that is my synopsis of 3 very lovely Japanese games created by Japanese devs in the genre of horror. If you have played these games, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on them. What do you think about this setup and this sort of explanation of what I've been up to with exploring Japanese horror? What would you like to see in the future? Coming up for some future videos, I've got a Japanese horror movie called Psycho the Large Family that I watched with viewers that we're going to explore. And I also have some kind of deep lore Toshi Densetsu, which are like urban legends that have kind of been updated for modern times, and you probably haven't heard before. Don't expect to come to this channel and hear the same urban legends about Japan that you've heard again and again and again and again. We're not doing Slit Mouth Woman. We're not doing the 8-foot tall woman who steals away children. We're going to do stuff that's like deeper lore that comes from my experience of having lived in Japan for 16 years. If you liked what you saw today, a subscription would be the best payment you could possibly give me for this video. Your view is enough alone. Your comment is an extra part. And hitting that like button helps a ton. Even if you have nothing to say, put a full stop in the comment section and hit enter. Help those algorithm gods show people what my channel is all about. Let me know what you'd like to see for future videos, and until next time, I'm Unrested, and this is Oshi Nights. I hope you have a great rest of the week.